Hey, fam, we are back. We're only, 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. One of the best days on
Yes.
the calendar.
Yes.
Getting close. We could get rid of
Yes.
all the, the what ifs and the breakdown and the conversations of players and why Chris Olave is being overvalued and all that stuff. You know, but So tonight, we've been thinking, we put on our thinking caps, how we could get a little creative, how we could do things a little bit different, because we've probably broken down these prospects about as much as we possibly can to this point. And so we decided to take a look at a mock draft that Dane Brugler did over at The Athletic. It dropped today. So if you have The Athletic, you can go check this out. And I think it's one of the more interesting mock drafts that I've seen. Some of them I've seen out there are absolutely terrible. And but this one I think is actually pretty interesting. It's a full 7-round mock, so we're going to kind of go through the first round and then the rounds beyond. Kind of look at some of the fantasy relevant players. How things would look if this is if they wound up on these teams and stuff like that. So with that being said, joined as always with Robbie. Happy to have him back. I think this is like what 2 weeks? Oh no, this is 2 out of the last 3 weeks that he's been on the TFA airwaves. Happy to have him. And Cody, of course, as always. He's hyped. He's happy. Sammy Watkins is back in the NFL, signed with the Green Bay Packers.
Let's go.
For all of 4 weeks. He'll be there for all of 4 weeks at most. But he can put him back up on the wall because he's still in the league.
Get him on the wall.
I need to do some. Just got a bookshelf that I'm going to be putting some memorabilia on. So there's going to be something behind me coming up shortly. But today was a glorious day. Sammy Watkins signing with the Packers, just an absolute elite spot for him to go to. And then also, I'll tell you what made me really happy. I got my first lawnmower that has the bag to catch the grass. Game changer. I'm irrationally happy about it, especially because I don't know if this is like a thing for other communities, but I've never had. I didn't even know this was a thing until I moved down here. They'll also do like a yard pickup whenever they come to take. I didn't know this was a thing. That like literally blew my mind. I was like, so I have this. I could just dump this on the side and they'll take it. Dude,
Welcome to home ownership. Do you have the white New Balances now too to go along with it and the jean shorts so you can,
Just
I got the Velcro shoe.
Oh, nice. Hey,
next level.
You are 100% dad life now. Okay, you get excited to bust out the lawnmower every year, get the yard spruced up.
Get them just a nice tinge of green. They can't be too white because it looks like you're just a new dad on the block. Get them a nice little tinge of green. Hey, I mowed at 9 a.m. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what we do. So, Walito in the chat. What up, boys? Another TFA live stream. Yep. Joe, always rocking with us. Appreciate you as well.
Always.
Mulching mower, fuck the world. Yes. The self-propelled is where it's at. Like, the people that don't have, if you're going to have a walk-behind mower, you have to have the self-propelled. Because if you don't, I don't know what you're doing with your life, really, to be honest with you. I mean, zero turn, all that stuff is like next level, right? You got to graduate up to that, to the self-propel or to the zero turn and all that. But you're not there yet. You're still at the you're entry level.
We're in the level of we hope the lawnmower starts each time. That's where I feel like I'm at least. Like if it starts, hey, this is great. This is a good day. Let's do it. We're gonna mulch a little bit. You have to mow twice as much though if you're mulching. You can't let it get as long. It gets clumpy. These are your lawn mowing takes. Thanks for tuning in.
You get angry at rain because you just mowed. Now you got to mow again. All those things happen.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Anyways, I think we've talked enough about mowing for one day. Catch us next week for more HGTV, home remedies. But let's just jump right into it, right? Let's jump right into this mock that's old Dane dropped today on The Athletic. You can, like I said, you can check it out over there. So the first names off the board, obviously, are your standard Aiden Hutchinson. Trayvon Walker's a little bit different. But the first fantasy relevant name, which is one that I'm not going to agree with, but we'll see what happens, is Kenny Pickett going to Carolina. It makes sense because, the this feels though like one that we're going to look back on, that if the Panthers do take Kenny Pickett and with Malik Willis on the board, that we're all going to be laughing at in a couple of years, because I'm not that excited about Kenny Pickett and his baby hands. And he's an older prospect. I don't know. And so, like, I feel like if you're going to take a shot on Malik Willis.
I guess I don't know how much to value the third percentile hand size, right? Like, I'll be honest, I don't know whether that's like hey, this is the cutoff, I need to be out on him, or, well, if he's being mocked and these NFL teams are talking about him and they're doing visits and they're probably going to pick him in the top 15 picks, if they don't care, do I need to care? You know what I mean? Like, it's a tough game to play. So if he goes at 6, and we know that a couple other teams have brought him in for visits, right? And we're talking about a top 15, maybe top 20 pick quarterback. It kind of gives me the thought that if the NFL teams aren't caring about this, maybe I need to take a step back and realize that, hey, it's going to be a third percentile quarterback. Does he succeed or not? Maybe that's the question, but it's maybe something I shouldn't be as worried about, that we're always talking about Kenny Pickett, small hands, right?
It's not an issue until it's an issue. You know what I
guess,
mean?
he's not playing I mean, Carolina, it's not really a cold weather place, so it's not like he's going to be playing half his games in cold weather. But he played at Pitt as well, so
right.
I mean, it's not like he's not accustomed to playing in cold weather.
Yeah, Matt Hicks dropped a fun fact. The podcast is out. We talked to him, quarterbacks and tight ends. Kenny Pickett, double gloves. He is a double bagger. So we're talking, some lawn mowing tips. And you don't always double bag. And all
safe out there. You know what I mean?
Kenny Pickett double bags the hands, maybe gets a better grip. Only 3 fumbles in that senior year. So, hey, plays in the cold, didn't fumble a whole lot. Let's see if it translates to the NFL.
So the next one up is Malik Willis, and he goes 8 to Atlanta. I really enjoyed this pick. I think this is an interesting landing spot. For most mocks you see is wide receiver for them going here. Obviously with them, Calvin Ridley situation, him likely even when he comes back next year, him being gone, regardless of whatever happens there. So it makes a little bit more sense that they would take a wide receiver because they don't have literally anybody. But, I think if you can get a quarterback like Malik Willis, I think you could do it. I would prefer them because they're not going to be very good this year no matter what. Like, I think that they would be much better off waiting to take that quarterback, adding more pieces to this offense, improving the offensive line. Though, their salary cap situation should be better next year. It doesn't make as much sense for them, but if they're going to do it, I think you could at least let Malik Willis, probably sit this year, behind Marcus Mariota, who they have, there now. And then they could probably find some other value later. But we'll talk about it when we get there. But in the second round, they also have a very interesting name that he has for them going in the second round. So we'll see what Atlanta does. Because I think, honestly, the smartest thing Atlanta could do would be to trade out of this spot, trade back, gain more capital to improve their chances for future years. But, if they go Malik Willis here, at least it's an interesting landing spot for him.
It's an interesting landing spot, but it's also like, of all the spots, it feels like he can overtake Marcus Mariota, right? Like, Marcus Mariota isn't this great quarterback that he needs to sit behind, right? Like, that would be a legitimate camp battle that he could win, even though I think he needs this quote unquote redshirt year, or at least the Justin Fields wait until we have an injury, right? Because we know that there's probably going to be some struggles early on as he gets more complete as a prospect, more complete as an NFL player. And so of this landing spot, I almost want to see a landing spot where I know he's going to sit, right? He's behind a more established guy like a Carson Wentz to the Commanders or something like that. And just, they don't really have anything. They have Kyle Pitts, and then we'll get to the second round pick that they made, but there's literally nothing else around him. And for him to succeed, I want to see some down the field guys that he can throw to. I want to see more than just Kyle Pitts, right? So the landing spot, I can see why it can be made into a great argument, but I'm going to push to the side where it almost makes me worried that he's going to start earlier, struggle earlier. His value is going to sink. He's not going to be great first year because he doesn't have anybody around him, and it's rushing his him being a good NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, Robbie. When I saw that, I was just like, like, you want to talk about a desolate landscape. There is nothing there. It's Auden Tate, and who even cares about Kyle Pitts because they got Auden Tate? You know
They got Auden Tate? That's news to me. Is he wide receiver 1?
Absolutely.
I think that is Olamide Zaccheaus. I think is their wide receiver 1.
Is it? I don't know. It could be Auden Tate. Let's have a little camp battle.
Yeah, I think that's just a gross spot. Obviously, in this mock, Dane didn't do any trades, but I think this is a prime trade back spot, Kev, as you alluded to. If not, I don't think quarterback is the pick for them this year.
I don't think so either. I don't think a team like them or like Houston, like these teams that shouldn't be taking quarterbacks. Like you're not there yet. I think they're better off to wait and to add more draft, especially in a draft where we know this draft class, at least for the quarterback position, is terrible. Or is not good, right? And next year's class should be much better. CJ Stroud should be coming out next year, and a few of the other guys. So
Bryce Young, yep.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love that thought because I thought the same thing for the Texans. I know we'll talk on some of their picks here, but it's like those two teams, they're not going to be good this year. They have so many holes to fill, especially for the Falcons, who do not have the same amount of picks as the Texans. You can't turn this team around. People are going to underestimate how much Matt Ryan did for this team because he's not there anymore. Like I feel like this is honestly like a 4 or 5 win Falcons team, and I don't really care who they pick. Like this is going to be a horrendous team, so they're going to be picking in the top 3, 4, 5 next year. So I think we're definitely talking about a quarterback next year for them and the Texans. So I love that point that you made.
Yeah, and so from there, the next one, the first wide receiver comes off the board at 10 to the Jets. I like that landing spot for them. I know they have Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, obviously, but Elijah Moore, is one of the outside. Obviously, pour one out for Denzel Mims. He's never going to be a thing, sadly, after a short shelf life. But Garrett Wilson going to the Jets here in this landing spot, the first wide receiver off the board. I think there's a real shot. There's probably 2 or 3 guys that have a real claim to being the first wide receiver off the board. Obviously, Garrett Wilson is one of them. What do you guys think about this landing spot for the Jets, just surrounding Zach Wilson with even more talent? Absolutely love what they did with the offensive line this offseason. I think this offensive line is going to be very good. And I think, with the picks they've made with that, plus the guys they brought in, I think now, this is just continuing to add to the weapons that Zach Wilson is going to have at his disposal. And so what do you guys think about this, Garrett Wilson? Or do you think they'd be better off going with like a Drake London type, some of that big body wide receiver where you have Elijah Moore, I guess, and Corey Davis?
I think it's better for Zach Wilson than it is Garrett Wilson. Like, especially coming from the San Fran tree, like I don't think this is going to be a team that wants to air it out all that often. And now you're packing that team with a bunch of really good pass catching options. You already touched on the guys they already have there. Brought in 2 tight ends who are capable pass catchers. You have Michael Carter there as well in the backfield. So I think this is much better for Zach Wilson and probably NFL purposes. I don't love it for Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Echoing those same thoughts. I think for Zach Wilson, as a Zach Wilson fan, he's going to get a top tier wide receiver, and I think Garrett Wilson's going to be one that I'm excited about. But Drake London as well, Williams, any of those guys I think would be helpful. What's interesting here is that Wilson can fit wherever you want him to go, right? He can play inside, he can play outside. So if you're going to have Davis on the outside, more on the inside, he can slide inside, or if you want to slide more on the inside. So I think that's what makes sense for the Jets team. But fantasy-wise, like I don't see Zach Wilson in year 2 going out and throwing for 310 and 3, right? So we're not going to have Elijah Moore be a top 20 guy, Garrett Wilson come in and be a top 30 guy. Like there's going to be a lot of weeks where it's bad for most players and it's going to be good for one player, and then we're going to swap and Garrett Wilson's going to have the good week. Or you just talk about the 2 tight ends that came in. There's going to be a random week where they're good. So for Garrett Wilson, this is probably a definite drop in stock redraft wise, where first year you're not targeting him, and unless there's injuries, just because I don't see the Jets being a prolific passing offense. They will take a step forward. They will not be in my opinion, a top half of the league passing offense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're probably right. I think I am interested to see what Zach Wilson, how he progresses this year. He started to kind of put it together a little bit the second half of last season. Started to look a little bit better, and that was without really much of the weapons because most all of them were hurt. And so I think it's a good move for them to continue to surround him with the weapons. I think that maybe he'd be a little bit better off, at least in terms of just stylistically of the wide receivers that they have there, to add maybe a more of a big body guy like a Treylon Burks or a Drake London to because Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. I know Garrett Wilson's bigger than Elijah Moore, but it's not like they're still both on the smaller size in terms of that. So I think I prefer to see one of those guys go there versus that because they're kind of a little bit redundant in that aspect of what they bring to the table. But overall, I don't hate the landing spot. So let's keep it moving. And you have to go all the way down to 18 and 19 and 20 to get to the next ones. Let's go with the Philadelphia Eagles. Drake London going to the Eagles. This was the pick from New Orleans here on this pick. And I don't hate it. You need to continue to surround Jalen Hurts with weapons here. I just don't know. Like, it's just like I don't know. It's like I feel like a wet blanket because I'm like, just because I don't know how much they're going to throw the ball, right? Are they going to continue this, ground and pound with this offense and just not really open it up, and so it worries me a little bit. It's just not as exciting of a landing spot for Drake London. I was surprised that he had the Chargers going with Trevor Penning out of an offensive tackle. They seem like a spot they could definitely be looking at a wide receiver. Keenan Allen is getting older, in that offense. I think they could use somebody. So, but they Drake London going here. What do you guys think about that?
Not great, Bob.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, like we want the exciting spots, right? And so obviously there is no trades in this mock, right? Because 100% there's going to be teams that are trading up to get ahead of these teams. Or you can also see, because the Philadelphia just has so many, they can just continue to stack picks, right? Because the Saints made like the worst trade I've ever seen, giving them that first round pick next year. So for the Eagles, I don't think they're necessarily a team that I think they can just kind of go best player available here and not necessarily do that. And I think they could continue to trade back. And, a team like the Chiefs, there was a report came out today that from Nate Taylor from The Athletic that the Chiefs are aggressively looking to move up. They're a team, we've seen it before, that Brett Veach is super aggressive with his picks. And likely, they have 12 picks. They're not picking 12 players 100%. They are going to package these picks. They're going to move up. And the player actually comes off the board next is who the guy that sounds to me that they're most interested in. I just don't love Drake London to the Eagles. I mean, Robbie, are you excited about Drake London going to the Eagles here?
I don't think Hurts will have the passing volume to support Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Drake London. So I don't want to say the same thing I said for the Jets, but there's not going to be the passing volume to support those guys. So then it's pick and choose who you want which week, wait for the injury to happen, and then you have two eating out of the slice for three normally. Like that's how it's going to be, because there's no way that you're going to have all three of those guys produce in 15, 12 of the 17 weeks, right? Like there's going to be one or two most weeks that get the fantasy production that you need for where you're going to probably need to draft them up here for redraft.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep it moving. And another, makes me want to throw up a little bit spot is Jamison Williams, my beloved Jamison Williams, going to the New Orleans Saints here at 19. Again.
Really?
Yeah. Cody, tell him. This is a good landing spot.
I thought
you like him. Obviously, Jamison Winston's there, but I don't know when Jamison's going to be ready with the injury that he had. Is he going to be ready to start week one? If it is, I would be a little bit more interested in it. I just really want Jamison Williams to go to the Chiefs. Let's just be honest here. Okay? Anywhere he landed, I'm not going to be happy if it doesn't say Kansas City next to his name. It's Jamison Williams or bust for Kansas City. But it's not it's a much better landing spot. But this team is still going to be absolutely trash this year. The Saints are going to be certifiably trash. And so that's why the trade they made is so perplexing to me of what they did, and then to give the first round pick next year when it's very likely that is going to be a top 10 pick next year. To give that away is just absolutely mind blowing to me. For what? Like, I don't know. And I know people have said, well, maybe they're going to trade up. They're going to take the extra pick they got for this year. They're going to trade up into the top 10 and they're going to grab somebody. But like, who are you like so excited about that you have to go get with this pick? And it'll probably be like a defensive lineman or something like that, some edge rusher or something like that is what they'll end up doing. But it's not a terrible landing spot for Jamison Williams. Obviously, there's nobody else there. It's Marquez Callaway. The ghost of Michael Thomas is still there, Alvin Kamara. So, yes, they could use another wide receiver, and it does make sense for the landing spot for Jamison Williams to go to New Orleans. So, next up, let's talk about this one. This has been going on now, I feel like, almost like before it was Kenny Pickett's season going, he played in Pittsburgh, and all this other stuff. Now it's Desmond Ritter everywhere I see. Everybody's mocking Desmond Ritter to the Steelers. Hurts my heart a little bit because Mitchell Trubisky season, just getting off the ground. But because Desmond Ritter is one of the most NFL-ready quarterbacks in this draft. Ready to start from day one. And so how do you feel about this?
I think for redraft purposes, he immediately becomes the QB1 among the rookies, right? Easily, like without a doubt.
Man, that is he's risen so much, and we talked about it a little bit with Matt Hicks yesterday. I'm going to reference this a couple times just because we just had this conversation. He's super plugged in, graded 90 players, been following this for a long time. Like, he talked about Desmond Ritter, and just from the pieces I've watched, I like Desmond Ritter. Like, I like the upside that you can get with him as a really good runner, as a guy with a solid arm. You have the leadership. You have when he's on. But, man, he has a lot to grow. Like, if you want to talk about raw prospects, so, Kev, you said kind of NFL ready. I would almost go the opposite. Like, other than Malik Willis, he's the one that needs to fix up his progressions the most. He needs to hit more consistently with his accuracy. Like, it makes me nervous that he's getting this much hype. But when you put him with the Steelers, it's really hard to argue with, okay, he's got really good weapons. He's got a fantastic running back behind him where he's going to be able to have that security blanket. He's mobile enough to deal with the offensive line that they've neglected, right? So I do like that landing spot, and I'm more intrigued because I am a Desmond Ritter guy, but I'm going to be the first to admit there's going to be growing pains that I kind of saw with Zach Wilson going to the Jets. Like, that was a guy that's probably going to need some time. That was a tougher landing spot. Let's wait a year. Let's let him, grow it. And we saw it in the second half of the year. I feel like it's going to be a similar situation with Desmond Ritter, where it's going to be questionable, disastrous, maybe first half, or we have to see what happens with Trubisky, right? Does he win that battle or not? But second half of the year, I can see him coming on later after he's had those growing pains.
Is he like the next DeShone Kizer?
Ah, man, that is a crazy, interesting comp. Like, if you start him too soon, yeah, like that's fair. I don't want it to be that at all. But if you start him too soon, yes, he definitely needs to sit. He definitely needs to have Trubisky. Can Trubisky show someone the way? Is that a thing? If you are still struggling to find the way yourself,
is the wrong way.
Okay, don't do this.
What not to do?
Don't
shut your mouth. This is we are not throwing shade at Mitch. All right, at the truth. Okay. But Steelers fan, how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
It's always doom and gloom.
I know it's always. There's nothing they can do. Everything they do is just terrible.
This pick should not be for the Steelers. Should not be a quarterback. Like, there's a reason why we have quarterbacks falling this far in the NFL mock. There's as wrong as it was. Who was it? Bucky Brooks putting no quarterbacks in the first round in his mock. Completely wrong, but that gives you an idea of how this QB class is being viewed, right? So I think the Steelers need to do anything but quarterback with that pick. That needs to be offensive linemen. They could use pieces on every level of the defense as well. Should not be quarterback, but I do think Desmond Ritter, if he go especially a place like the Steelers, who just had 73-year-old Big Ben, I feel like that would they could ease him in and give him easier things to do that might help his progression versus just dropping him in to some crazy exotic offense. You know what I mean? I feel like he could be a point guard kind of quarterback for that team, and there are enough pieces around him. Adding in Patty Fry as well to the weapons that he has, that he could do Big Ben-esque type of things that could help that development with him.
You just wait. You just wait until Mitch leads the Steelers to the playoffs this year. Okay. So, anyways, let's keep it moving.
Yes.
And let's talk about another one of Robbie's guys. And this is a spot, if he landed here, I'd have to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to like him even a little bit more. And that is Chris Olave landing with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers doing the right thing for once and giving Aaron Rodgers some weapons and taking a wide receiver in the first round. And it's just perfect that it's Chris Olave, though I am waiting for the Chiefs to trade up, and that's who they'll draft. And then I'm really just going to have to oh, okay, here we are. This is what we're doing. But anyways, Chris Olave going to the Green Bay Packers, obviously a fantastic landing spot. Nobody else there. It's Allen Lazard. Oh, it's Sammy Watkins for a couple of weeks, I will say, I know we're still really early away from redraft season, but it's just Robert Tonyan's just flew under the radar, the fact that he re-signed back, and everybody's just he's dead. I think, anyways, regardless of that, Chris Olave to the Packers, excellent landing spot.
Yeah. I mean, retweet for literally any wide receiver that lands in this spot, because it's your most open wide receiver room with one of the best quarterbacks. And so I feel like anybody who lands here is going to vault up your drafts, redraft, your dynasty drafts, whatever it is. And the fact that they're getting such an NFL ready player in Chris Olave, you're not worried about what he's going to do for a floor. He can run a full route tree. He has separation. He has speed. He wins in multiple ways. This is probably a dream scenario for both the Packers and Olave, because he gets the quarterback that can give him those fantasy numbers. And on the flip side, Rodgers gets a guy that he doesn't have to have any questions. He's going to know that he's open when he's throwing the football. So this is a win for me, for someone who's been touting Olave and what he does well. So I love it, but I'd love anybody going to this spot, and whoever goes to this spot's going to rise for me just based on obviously the landing spot. But it's a double whammy with it being Chris Olave.
It's funny too, because we'll talk about it once we get later. But they actually, I think in this mock, they haven't taken him another wide receiver that we all like. This is not
you do not
wide receiver. I do not dislike this wide receiver whatsoever. Okay?
You hate him.
I do not. But we'll talk about it when we get there. Anyways, so Chris Olave to the Packers. Let me ask this: with how things have fallen so far, if Chris Olave were to go to the Packers, is he wide receiver one?
Until the next pick.
Ooh, I like that. He's the wide receiver one, because what you're worried about with Chris Olave is his upside, right? He scored a lot of touchdowns in a really good offense with Ohio State, so you're not super worried about that. But he's not this contested catch guy that translates to the NFL, right? With Drake London, I can see him getting 10 touchdowns, no problem, right? I don't always see that with Chris Olave, and everyone's going to talk about his yak ability. So those are where you probably limit his people who slam against Olave are going to say, okay, there's no upside. You put him with Aaron Rodgers, the upside's there, right? The 40 touchdown season is there. So I think you erase your worries with Chris Olave because of what Aaron Rodgers does, and he has to be, at least from this mock, he's got to be your 101 for at least for wide receivers, right? And especially for redraft year one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Najee Harris effect, right? The opportunity is just going to be so great for him to be able to really come through. So, I agree on that. So I guess let's just keep it moving and let's talk about the next one, and that is Treylon Burks coming off the board at 25 to the Buffalo Bills, right? So that would make Gabriel Davis, all the Gabe Davis truthers that have been drafting him in best ball, like wide receiver 28, 29, which is ridiculous. It would be a real bad look for that because Treylon Burks coming here to Buffalo, obviously Stephon Diggs re-signed that extension there just recently as well. So it would be Treylon Burks with Josh Allen. Discuss.
What's not to like?
Oh, I didn't say I didn't like. I was as
no. I'm just saying. I like what else? What else can you possibly say? It's a big body receiver who ran somehow a disappointing 4.5 40 at his size. Still had a damn near 90th percentile speed score, and you're putting him with one of the best arms in the NFL on a team that's going to throw a bunch. You gotta love it.
Yeah, you're talking about the QB1 at worst QB2 in fantasy. Stephon Diggs is obviously the primary, but Burks is going to be right there. We're replacing all of Beasley's production. Gabe Davis is obviously going to take a hit. This is a fantastic landing spot for an offense that throws first down, second down, third down. Oh, and then they go for it on fourth down too. And so your touchdown upside's there. Your passing offense upside is there. You have a great athlete who's also going to get you running production. I know that we can get into their other picks that'll change the running landscape there. But Treylon Burks at this spot is going to be wide receiver 2 for this mock for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that.
Real quick, Robbie, for dynasty purposes, would he still be wide receiver 2?
I think he'd be wide receiver 1, just
Okay.
based on how he's tied to that offense and that quarterback. I feel like it's a little bit more stable and long term. Like, I don't know if Rodgers sees the end of his contract that he signed. Rodgers can kind of do whatever next year. Like, I don't know. So just the stability with that offense. I know they just re-signed Diggs, and that's going to be a piece of it. But this is an offense that can produce kind of like the Bengals did after we waited for a couple years, or a couple games. It was Higgins and Chase week in, week out being top 12 producers. So I can see the same thing happening with the Bills with Diggs and Burks.
That's my burner account with Justin Reed there. So Abby, hey, who do you want the Chiefs to take? Why are you here? Who do you want the Chiefs' first round pick? I mean, it's Jamison Williams or bust. But anyways, so let's keep it moving to the last one in the first round. Sadly, of course, the standard Kager Elam and Boy Mafe for the Chiefs. That's not going to happen. Anyways, last one, 32, Detroit Lions. Jahan Dotson. Don't like this. Like this at all.
This one doesn't make sense
for the Lions, or really for Jahan Dotson, right? Because I'm like, where is he playing? I guess you're going to put him on the outside, I guess. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously is there. I just don't think it's needed.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all. With Dotson's questionable play strength, you can't put him on the outside. And I think with Amon-Ra's below average athleticism, you can't put him on the outside either. You know what I mean? So are you just going to run trips from the slot? You know what I mean? With Khalif Raymond, like what are we doing? This one I don't get. I don't get the fit, and I don't. It's not a great pick.
Love this, Jamison Williams. Love that as well. Absolutely love it. It's Jamison Williams or bust. And let's remember, like I was, whenever the Chiefs picked Patrick Mahomes, I tweeted out before the draft that John Dorsey had Patrick Mahomes or nothing in his pocket, and it came to fruition. So I'm speaking it out in the world. Jamison Williams to the Chiefs. Anyways, let's keep it moving. Second, let's go over to the second. Let's keep moving second round. We'll get a little more open forum here. One that stood out to me, George Pickens to Houston. I'm like, why do you got to do my boy like that? Yeah, James. I love George
Not great.
Pickens. I think he's could be one of the best receivers in this class. Houston, don't necessarily love it, but it is what it is at this point. And
What
then you
about
have
what about from a dynasty perspective, Kev? I know obviously your redraft mine not great for a redraft, but from a dynasty perspective, I'm buying that dip because same thing we talked about at the top. Like Falcons and Houston, I think they're going to be not great this year. They're going to be picking quarterback here in 2023. Give Brandon Cooks a year to finally move on. Pickens rolls in, him and Nico, and then they get themselves a new quarterback. Like I feel like I like that landing spot, not year one, but year two and going forward. So I actually don't mind the Pickens landing spot, but obviously for redraft, it's not ideal. You have a very low ceiling there in that passing offense.
Yeah, I think from a long-term perspective, I think it does make sense. I mean, and who knows? I mean, if Davis Mills can continue playing like Davis Mills was actually, underrated last year. Played better than people gave him credit for. Especially with absolutely nothing there. They have completely torn this team apart. But I think George Pickens. I mean, it's not terrible. I guess from a long-term perspective, it's not the worst. But I don't know. Just took some out of my sails, and then. A couple of picks here coming up. So you have Christian Watson going to Chicago, Matt Corral going to Seattle, and then Sky Moore going to Indy. Like complete, the Sky Moore one is complete 6 to midnight. Like super excited. Would absolutely love that. Perfect compliment. You have Michael Pittman on the outside playing the X. You slide Sky Moore into the slot, and it's just fantastic. It's just pure sex, right? For me.
RIP to your guy Paris, though.
He's dead anyways. He's never going to be a thing. Okay, you're not getting me again this year. Paris
You let go. You let go of players. This
yes.
4/14/2022. Kev has let go of a player. Write it down.
Hey, I'm still holding on to hope Jeremy Hill comes back and makes it. I mean, that's Super Bowl champion. Remember that. Anyways, so for this range, I mean, I guess Sky Moore is probably the easy standout, but yeah. Christian Watson to Chicago. What do you guys think about that?
I don't love it. Obviously, he's gonna.
I can't
he's
remember
gonna have.
It was today, but somebody on Twitter posted MVS and Christian Watson, like literally their stats from college, their athleticism, size, everything, and they are like clones of each other. It was kind of funny.
Is MVS that big?
Yeah,
he's that tall. I don't know size wise if he's the same weight, but
they're both 4'3" guys.
Cody, you said this about Watson. I feel like you said he's the Trey Lance of this wide receiver class, right? Did I get that right?
I have been repeating that. Somebody said it on Twitter. I keep forgetting to look to see who to give the credit to. I have been repeating it, but someone on Twitter, I saw it. Somebody on Twitter said it.
I love it.
Makes all the sense in the world.
It does because Christian Watson has the athleticism, he has the size, and when you put the size and speed and athleticism together, you're like, boom, the sky's the limit. Let's draft him at the back of the first round. But then you also remember that he's not really refined. Hands are sometimes questionable. Doesn't know when to sit down in the zone. There's a lot of question marks that he still needs to fill out as a wide receiver to be successful. And you're like, okay, he's with a younger quarterback, just hired a new coach, new offensive coordinator. There's room there with Allen Robinson gone. So there's just a lot of question marks there. I don't hate it, but he's going to be overdrafted for me. He's going to be overdrafted for sure. And so I'll take a Sky Moore over him. I'll take we'll get down to an Alec Pierce or something like that. I'll take some of these other guys over him just because he's going to be overdrafted because they're like, okay, A-Rob's gone. It's just Darnell Mooney and nobody else. Sign me up.
Excuse me. It was funny too with the MVS comp because it said, Christian Watson struggles with drops. MVS struggles with drops. Like it is just too perfect of a comp. I'm like, oh my God, he is MVS, but with better draft capital.
So
for sure.
I don't want to go through all these picks here, but the next couple that are coming up, let's have the running back debate. It seems like it's definitely a two-horse race now. Somehow Isaiah Spiller is on the side of a milk carton somewhere. It just seems like with all the hype that he was, I guess not necessarily hype, but he was locked in as like a top 2, top 3 back for months, it seemed. And now you don't hear anybody even mentioning or whispering Isaiah Spiller's names.
Well,
and then we have,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, he did. But like we can't get into the combine discussion.
Yeah, I will say the 2 landing spots for the running backs that we have here are both great.
Yes.
Atlanta has nobody, right? With Breece Hall. Breece Hall going there. And then you have Kenneth Walker going with Buffalo in the second round as well. Yes. And obviously Devin Singletary is there. I feel like that Buffalo would be better off not taking somebody like Kenneth Walker, maybe going with like a James Cook or a Tyler Beatty, somebody that's like more of a pass catcher, right? Where Devin Singletary is, he's an okay pass catcher, but he's not like, he's not a satellite back. I think they'd be better off going with that. But if Kenneth Walker was drafted there, it's night to everybody there, and it's Kenneth Walker's backfield. But from a fantasy perspective, though, I don't know, because like the way, as much as they pass the ball, yes, in the second half we saw them commit more to Devin Singletary, but we know Josh Allen's going to take away the rushing opportunities at the goal line. But it's a much more high-powered offense. But you go to Atlanta with Breece Hall, terrible offense, but it's really going to be his entire backfield because yes, Cordell Patterson's there, but if Breece Hall is the guy, like I think he would be the guy there. He would get pass catching work. So I think it's an interesting kind of decision to make there, which one is actually better.
I think a lot of this comes down to, are the Bills going to try and commit more to the run with the OC who just went to
Ken Dorsey? Or Ken Dorsey's their OC now, isn't he? Seriously.
No, the OC that left.
That left. Okay.
Yes.
Brian
his name.
Dable.
Yes, Dable.
Laughs at me. I think he's the OC. I don't know.
I might be thinking about a different.
No, you're thinking of that Ken Dorsey. No, you were absolutely thinking about the Browns quarterback who was a fail, is now their OC. But continue.
The former Miami Hurricane?
Probably.
Yeah, but anyway, I think that's also something that we haven't really talked about is, how much does their offensive philosophy change? What kind of things is there going to be anything different? Is it kind of just going to be a carbon copy of what it was last year? But yes, but I would also assume that with Josh Allen getting a little bit older, you're not going to want to run him quite as much to try and protect him. So it's really, really interesting, kind of it doesn't really solve much for the people who are deciding between Hall and Walker as their RB1, right?
Yeah, I think it's the conversation of redraft versus dynasty, right? And I'm obviously going to look at it from a dynasty perspective, but redraft, it's like it's no brainer for me. It's Breece for sure, but dynasty, Devin Singletary is on the last year of his contract. This is a very Javonte Williams versus Najee Harris situation for me, where Najee Harris is probably going to have the better season and it's not going to be close. But you look at it from a dynasty perspective with Walker sliding in. Do they resign Singletary? Probably not. He's done enough where he's going to get more money than they want to pay if they follow this mock and take Kenneth Walker as a round 2 pick. They're not paying money to Devin Singletary. He's going to take over that workload. And so now you have Kenneth Walker and his athleticism. He's basically a Devin Singletary that's athletic, right? He can pass catch. He didn't show it a ton in college. He's a much better athlete. He's got to work on his pass pro a little bit. Like, he just does what Devin Singletary does, but better. And this is coming from a Devin Singletary guy. So Devin Singletary gets out of the way after 2022, just like we think Melvin Gordon is or is not happening right for Javonte Williams. It's the same story for me. So dynasty-wise, I kind of get excited about this spot. Redraft-wise, give me Breece Hall all day.
Kev, Jalen Tolbert in the second to KC.
That was a very Chiefs pick too. Like that's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's what we're doing.
It's a Mecole Hardman pick. Like, okay, Let me dive in.
It's not as crazy because McCole Hardman was completely like, huh? What? Like, where did this come from? Nobody was talking about that. But yeah, with Jalen Tolbert, like, let's try to remake, Tyreek Hill here, short, small school wide receiver. But I don't hate it. I think he's a good fit for the slot. Somebody that's kind of really risen up a lot of people's boards this year. Obviously, I would much prefer Sky Moore, but that's not. Obviously he's already off the board. I don't think he lasts this long, anyways. At the 62nd pick, I think there's a better shot if they did not take a wide receiver in the first round. If they did not trade up for a wide receiver, I think there's a better shot they would take somebody at 50. But they have David
Ajabo.
Yeah, David Jabba there, which I would absolutely love that. But
Yep.
anyways, yeah, I mean, Jalen Tolbert's interesting. I think that I wouldn't move him up in terms of, like, I would still probably have him at, like, wide receiver 8 or 9 or something like that among all wide receivers with this spot. Because I don't think he's not somebody that's going to come in and be an alpha. He's not going to overtake Juju Smith-Schuster this year. He's not going to probably even overtake. It wouldn't be somebody that would overtake MVS. Travis Kelce's still there, so it wouldn't be something that, like, does it up for me. Where I'm like, okay, fantastic spot. Like, it is obviously it's Patrick Mahomes' offense, but at least for year one, I don't think it's one that you get overly excited about. And maybe if he gets enough excitement, kind of like we saw with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, especially in Dynasty, you should probably looking to sell.
Okay.
As we look at the third round and beyond, let's just start picking out a couple of the spots that were interesting to us. And I'll start it off since we didn't really have this planned out. But I think Wan'Dale Robinson to the Chargers is quite interesting. Obviously a lot with, like we said last year about Rondale. A lot of what Wan'Dale is going to come down to is how do they deploy him in the offense, right? And, like, we kind of saw, like, a tale of two collegiate careers with Robinson as well, where he was kind of like a gadget, almost basically a running back at Nebraska, and then he transfers to Kentucky and then blows up as a receiver. But I think in a high-powered offense like that, tied to Herbert, that is a really interesting spot for me.
Yeah, I feel like he does kind of what he's not just Jalen Guyton because of his speed and his ability to get deep, but he obviously does a lot just as a Deebo Samuel's light, right? Being able to get the edge, run the ball, quick screen. Again, I go back to the Rondale comp, right? He's not the athlete Rondale was, and you have to use him correctly, and you have a really short ADOT. Fantasy-wise, you have to hit the lucky sevens for him to be super successful fantasy-wise. So I'm straying away from him, even though Chargers are a bit better of a passing offense. So you kind of like that. But I'm probably looking at more towards an Alec Pierce, who goes one spot above him to the Browns, as Deshaun Watson is going to be there. Obviously, some suspensions most likely coming. Don't know. I don't want to project how long that's going to be, but you have Amari Cooper running underneath for Alec Pierce's X going deep, a little bit more of a speedster jump ball kind of guy, that size speed combo that you like. So I would be taking, if we're looking at these third round picks, with Alec Pierce, Wan'Dale, Mechie, Khalil Shakur, Calvin Austin, and we'll get to my guy David Bell. But Alec Pierce is going to be one of the guys that I enjoy for this early third round for wide receivers.
Just talk about David Bell.
Which it's funny because he's like borderline, very, very close to being that fourth round pick, being in the fourth round range at 92 here. But
it's the lowest I've ever seen him. Like Kev, you were saying fifth, sixth round. Like this is 92 is the lowest I've seen in any mock at all ever.
Embrace it.
Embrace the third round. Yeah, I hope you are embracing the third round, and to the Packers. Which,
look at absolutely... I mean, this is still. I mean, if you look at all the wide receivers that are going, what is he, like, wide receiver 50?
Oh, I don't care where he is. I don't care if he's behind Calvin Austin at 90 or Khalil
Is this
Shakir.
would this be like a Brian Edwards situation? Like, remember, like, because when Brian Edwards came out, right, it was Ruggs and Brian Edwards, and people
Derek
were super
Carr,
excited
Aaron
about it, right?
Rodgers.
Landing spot. I mean, obviously it's Derek Carr, but still, it was kind of wide open. There's nobody else there. I mean, this kind of is what this feels like. Though I will say, David Bell feels like a really good fit. With, I mean, of course, people are going to make this is the next Devontae Adams, right? Like, it's going to be it's what people are going to say. Very slow, unathletic guys, because Devontae Adams was not somebody who was overly athletic either coming out, but I think you would hear a lot of that. But, going to the Packers here at 92, I do think it's a great landing spot. One that, if he went there, he would be probably my wide receiver, probably 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has to rise up boards because the Packers are so empty of other wide receivers. They have Cobb, they have Watkins, and they have Lazard, right?
So they have nobody.
Well, Garrett Wilson in this.
And then they would have Chris Olave.
Not Olave, right?
Yeah, Olave, right? So you have to be excited about potential there, and David Bell is kind of honestly the opposite of what Chris Olave does, right? Chris Olave is the speed separation guy. David Bell is the possession. Going to outmuscle you, going to get yak on you. They're both really good route runners, so I'll say that. But they both kind of fit with what Aaron Rodgers does well in placing the ball. So it's kind of a good fit. And I understand what you're saying, Kev, where if he lands with the Titans, I can see that Brian Edwards comp, right? Where it's, hey, there's some opportunity. It's a middling quarterback, probably going to fade into the background. So this particular mock does a lot more for David Bell than probably some other ones where he maybe lands with the Giants or the Falcons or the Titans, 49, something like that. So in this particular one, he should rise probably honestly above 8 or 9, like you said. He should probably rise up to six-ish. He's still probably behind the top 5 for me, and he's right in that Sky Moore range of wide receiver.
Well, so you'd have Garrett Wilson, Olave, London, Williams, Treylon Burks. So those would be the 5, right?
Yep, those
so
are
you'd
5.
have just after them.
Yep, he's going to be behind there. He's going to be in the Pickens, Sky Moore, and David Bell tier. I would
have Pickens and Sky Moore 100% ahead of him. If this how it transpired, especially Sky Moore going to the Colts, like I just like that spot. I just think immediate success is going to be much easier for him. Easier path going to the Colts because they literally have nobody else besides Michael Pittman. They really don't even have a tight end. I mean, that at least with the Packers,
nobody else
taking some time.
I mean,
yes, right.
Nobody else and twice the quarterback.
They do have, like you said, they still have Randall Cobb. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is this big, like, rapport, my guy type guy.
Sure.
And so, like, I don't know. Like, I think it would take him a little bit of time. Maybe a guy you would look for, like, a year 2 breakout versus a year 1 with what he would have there. So I couldn't have him ahead of Sky Moore or George Pickens. That's where I would probably slot him in, is right after those guys.
And again, I don't know if we're talking redraft or dynasty because we're kind of having both those conversations. But for redraft, he should definitely be above Pickens for sure. Because Pickens isn't going to do much on the Texans with Brandon Cooks in that passing offense.
But that's all they would have. I mean, he would still be the wide receiver 2 immediately.
Yeah, which David Bell
depends. I don't know. I mean, there's still going to be a terrible defense. They're going to throw the ball a ton. Opportunity's going to be there. Yeah. I mean, he would easily be number 2 in targets. And on that team. And who knows? I mean, like I said, Davis Mills plays much better than what we expected him to last year. He was easily, among the rookies, probably the quarterback 2. Among the rookies last year.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of things
comparing him. But comparing him to Rodgers, right? You're going to take Green Bay's wide receiver 3,
right? But you're automatically 4. You would be automatically at that point saying, I fully expect that. I guess from a dynasty perspective, but still for him to be able to get through all of that, and see where he comes out. Where, like we mentioned, we could be talking about the Texans next year having,
for sure, dynasty, different conversation. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So
As we're closing in on an hour here, let's all pour one out for some of our favorite running backs. Pierre Strong to the Colts in the 5th.
Tough.
Kyron Williams in the 5th to the Bears. And then Tyler Beatty in the 5th to the Jets.
Well, so something with this too. I think that we need to I think we talked about this with Derek whenever we had Derek on, right? I don't think it should be viewed as like it's a death sentence if a running back is going in the 4th or 5th round. Like it shouldn't be like, oh, they're dead. Let's move off of them, right? Because we're seeing NFL teams get smarter and smarter with how they value these running backs and realize they don't need to overdraft these guys, right? And this isn't a strong running back class to begin with. So for me, what I care more about with these guys is just their immediate opportunity of where they land. I really don't care what their draft spot is for running back, right? Like what round. I don't care if it's a 5th or 6th round pick. Like, do they have an immediate path to where if starter goes down, would they be the guy, right? That's what I would be looking for with some of these guys, because I actually like, for example, like Tyler Algier. I know it's a 3rd round pick, so that's a little bit different, but love that spot to the Saints. I think he steps right in and is the 1A, 1B to Alvin Kamara, like we've seen in years past with them. If that's what they choose to do. Obviously, Sean Payton's not there now. They have the idiot that is Dennis Allen as the head coach. But regardless, I like that spot for him. I don't understand the James Cook to the Giants because it's kind of, I mean, you have one of the best pass catching running backs in the league still there with Saquon. He's still an excellent receiver out of the backfield. Like that's still, obviously it's a 1 year. So, Saquon will be gone after this year from the Giants, but don't necessarily love that. But Isaiah Spiller to the Bucks doesn't really do a whole lot for him. Leonard Fournette signed a longer term deal. I don't know. Like it's 4th round there. Zamir White's the Ravens. Absolutely hate that because I'm like, he's dead. When is he ever going to get opportunity? I mean, you have J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards is still there, and him. Obviously, it just becomes a complete mess. So I don't love that. Dameon Pierce would be interesting to the Eagles, though.
Yep.
Right. I still love Miles Sanders, but Miles Sanders is on really. This is his last year with the Eagles. He's definitely going to be a guy that's going to be a free agent after this year. I highly doubt he gets brought back. And so Dameon Pierce could be kind of staring down the barrel of, being their, possibly being the replacement for next year. And we've seen Miles Sanders not be able to stay healthy. And, he's flashed in opportunities flashed in limited opportunities and then did really well at the Senior Bowl. So this could be a spot for Dameon Pierce that, he would be able to rise up and be kind of like a second half breakout.
Yeah. I think Dameon Pierce was a name that I had highlighted. Tyler Algier kind of being that thunder to Alvin Kamara's lightning there with the Saints. They have, Tony Jones there, and that's it. Those are 2 names. And then I have Hassan Haskins all the way down. You think about a team that's going to take a running back early, or at least in the top, 4 rounds. They don't in this mock. They went all the way to Hassan Haskins, who's an incredibly strong, powerful runner. Those are some names that I like as just longer, deep shots. If we're talking about just running backs, I do want to talk about Joe's point here real quick. We'll throw it up on the screen. He says if landing spots or draft capital is causing a player to change tiers in your rankings, your tiers are not properly set up. We had a good response there where we need to realize that draft capital does matter, and it absolutely does. But we also can get caught into this, what I call the A.J. Brown rule, where A.J. Brown, when he gets drafted to the Titans, when they have Corey Davis, who's the new up-and-coming wide receiver, they don't have Ryan Tannehill as this stable quarterback yet. I dropped him down my rankings, and I absolutely missed out on a lot of A.J. Brown in dynasty leagues because I said landing spot's not great. I love the prospect, but I need to lower him down, and I missed out on him. So I think that's a really good point by Joe, where we definitely need to understand that landing spots won't be perfect, but if you believe in that talent and there is a path to success, eventually, I think we need to absolutely keep that in mind. Again, draft capital does matter. If your Kylan Hill drops from, where was he, Cody, in the 4th or 5th round, he dropped all the way to the 7th round, you have to drop him outside of your running back 5 or 6 or wherever you had him. So there is going to be a point where that happens. But speaking out of two sides of the mouth here, what's that? Who's the other name?
Tyler Johnson.
Yeah. There's going to be guys where you have to adjust based on where they go, because the NFL is going to tell you what they think on a lot of these guys. And I get it. The NFL is not always right. But if everybody is passing, if 32 teams pass on these guys for multiple rounds, that's telling you something. And I think one guy that we can point out that we don't need to spend a ton of time on is Justin Ross going in the 7th. If Justin Ross goes in the 7th, I loved him pre-injury. I love his ability. I love his size. He has absolutely an upside if you draft him. But if all 32 teams pass on him for what I think is probably 3 rounds too long, he's off my board because they're telling me the medicals didn't check out, and he has to change tiers for me because they're telling me that the medicals are too much of a risk to invest in. So, Joe, I love that comment. I just wanted to speak on it a little bit.
To me, what matters more than when I say landing spot, I think for me, it's more of just the opportunity, right? What opportunity, especially for running back, because that's all that fucking matters is the opportunity, right? If they don't have no immediate path to any sort of opportunity, it doesn't fucking matter what you think of them. Like, or how great you think they are. And so, and don't get me wrong, I also, like, if it's a player that goes to a really bad offense and also doesn't have opportunity in front of them, I will be out on that dog, because but I think for this class anyways, like, running backs are concerned, like, there's really just 2 guys. And then I think from there, you're just taking some dart throws on some of these guys, because there's really nobody past these 2 guys that really, like, that I'm just like, okay, this is the guy, right? Like, because I think all these guys are, I think pretty much what we've seen is they're probably going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. And so then from there, I'm just going to parse out what spots that I feel like that a player could, take a, like if the Seahawks, right? If they grab a running back here, maybe somebody you keep in mind, right? We already talked about Dameon Pierce, the Eagles, something like that, where there is some sort of path to relevancy. Then those would be the guys that I would focus on. Other than that, no. They're dead.
Do we want to talk real quick? Because I know we skipped, our round 2 quarterbacks. And if you look at round 2 quarterbacks historically, it's a pretty rough list with, like, I think it was like Andy Dalton and somebody else, Christian Hackenberg. Yeah, you're a perfect example of why not to take round 2 quarterbacks. But we have Matt Corral go 2nd, 40 overall to the Seahawks. And then Sam Howell goes 2nd round, 47th overall to the Commanders. One enters a spot where he's competing with Drew Lock. One is probably going to be behind Carson Wentz. If we're talking dynasty, if we're talking super flex, Cody, do you like either of these spots? Are you down on these spots for him? What are your thoughts there?
I don't like either of these spots, and it's probably why I just skipped by with no raising my hand and saying we should we should talk about it. I mean, if obviously Russ Wilson was still a good fantasy quarterback, but if he couldn't fully cook, like, that ham was always half baked in the Russ Wilson oven, right? Like, there was just so much, like, opportunity and so much meat left on that bone that I can't imagine that Matt Corral is going to be the guy to come around to make a bubblegum Pete Carroll look at him and be like, you know what, let's open this son of a bitch up. Let's go for it, boys. Here we go. Strap on the backpack. Get your rocket boosters ready. Let's go. So, like, that was just, it's gross to me, but obviously the opportunity's there because it's him and Drew Lock. You know what I mean? So the opportunity's there, but I don't love it. And then Sam Howell going and landing behind Carson Wentz. That's gross as well. I know some of the guys in the chat were talking about, liking Sam Howell. I'm on the same page, but I also have no idea what I'm looking at when it comes to quarterbacks, which it's odd to me how far he has slipped whenever he's the only quarterback that has 3 years of production, like unquestioned production. And it's not like he was at Bama either. So I like Howell, but I do not like that landing spot, although you could say with as much as Wentz has moved around, it's not like he has job security at this point. So all it takes is, an injury to Wentz, or, a couple games where he's not playing well. And Sam Howell could have that opportunity to step into the starting spot, but I'm not a fan of either of those spots.
I feel like Carson Wentz has almost entered the Jared Goff area for me, where, like, if he struggles or we don't see progression from him, he could be on this 1 or 2 year ticking clock where Sam Howell, who's someone who was really productive, obviously 2020 with all of those assets around him, doesn't do quite as well in 2021. But like you said, his big claim to fame is he can run the ball and he can produce when he has talent around him. And I know that we have Gibson, we have McLaurin, not a ton past that, but there's some talent around there with the Commanders. And then going back to Matt Corral, I think what's interesting is Matt Hicks had said Matt Corral is his number one guy. He is the most ready outside of Kenny Pickett to jump into a team. So if you want to talk about, hey, he goes to the Seahawks, which has an open competition, right, with Drew Lock. It's a team that doesn't have to throw a lot, right? This is going to be a team that definitely manages their quarterbacks amount that they have to throw. And then they have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Most likely, we've heard some trade rumors, but they have two really talented options and Noah Fant as well. Like, there's going to be options for Matt Corral to succeed early, which I don't think is going to be a ton fantasy-wise in year one as a rookie. But like as he gets into it, I kind of like limiting how much he has to do year one, because that's what he did at Ole Miss, right? He was a game manager early on, really breaks out the last 2 years, especially his redshirt junior year, his fourth year essentially, and he takes off and he takes care of the ball, doesn't make a ton of bad decisions, does progressions well. Like, he does enough well where if he has talent around him and he doesn't have to throw the ball a ton, he's not put in a ton of tough situations, he can have success. So I think that's an underrated spot for Matt Corral, and I'd see that as pushing him up draft boards because it's one of those spots where I can see him starting year one.
Yeah, I think it's possible with the situation that's in front of both of them. I think either could for sure. Before we got there, we have to hit on the tight ends for a second. But before we do, at least one or two of them. Okay, I know we have completely just neglected, like they're just dead. That's not even a position anymore with the tight ends right now. But so I was looking at some of these other I thought it was interesting in this mock that the Falcons do not take a wide receiver all the way until the third round, where they took Khalil Shakur, and then you have Calvin Austin going to the Titans. I feel like Calvin Austin could end up being a guy that goes in the second round, and so people are a little bit surprised because of his speed element that he brings to the table. I don't love the Titans landing spot. Obviously, I know there's not a lot of competition in front of there, but again, we're talking about an offense that just wants to be very run heavy, so I do not love that. But the Shakir pick to the Falcons is interesting because it would present just immediate opportunities for him to get on the field. But he also feels very much like a slot wide receiver for them. So would you guys be, I guess, more excited about those, about or at least the Falcons, taking Shakir there? Would you raise them up ahead of maybe some of these other picks that are going out, like a John Mechie, who's they have to the Giants, very similar, Wandale going to the Chargers, Alec Pierce? Would you be willing to move him up any further than that because of just the immediate opportunity that they're going to have?
No.
I honestly, I hate the Alec Pierce pick. I'm not a big fan of Alec Pierce, honestly. Like he's a straight line guy. Like that's all he is. He's just a burner deep. He's a terrible route runner. He does one thing and one thing only, which is fine. But that makes him very much like Ted Ginn in a sense. Like that's all like really Ted Ginn was really, was just a deep ball guy. And I feel like that is all Alec Pierce is. And I feel like they already have somebody. Like if that's where he went, Donovan Peoples-Jones is there. Like Donovan Peoples-Jones is bigger than he is, at least physically, and I think is a much better wide receiver. Like Donovan Peoples-Jones, is a very, 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 very underrated asset for Cleveland right now with Sean Watson going there. So even if they picked Alec Pierce, it wouldn't change what I feel about Donovan Peoples-Jones. But I just don't love that landing spot, and I'm just not super high on Alec Pierce myself. But so let's talk about some of the tight ends really quickly. At least Trey McBride going to the Bucs. Rob Gronkowski has not said he's coming back yet. I still think he's probably going to.
Yep.
But he still is also very much kind of like a part-time guy. Like he's not going to go out there and play 100% of the snaps, right? And so, if I don't love Trey McBride going there, I think Trey McBride is definitely the best tight end in this class. I think it's possible he goes higher than 60. I think it's very possible he goes in the top 40 to 50 picks here of the draft. But How do you guys feel about that? Because he's kind of the clear, like, okay, he's the guy.
Yeah. I think he's absolutely the guy for this mock. This is assuming Gronk doesn't come back. You love that plug and play. McBride is your number one versatile guy that can play the Y. He can play the F. Inline blocking, you're not worried about. He can run the routes, has enough athleticism, had the production at a decent school. So I feel like it's consensus, and we hate consensus. It's like he's the number one, move on to the next guy. But it really falls into place here. I think what's interesting is that we don't have the Bengals selecting a tight end until round 4. I think this is a team that actually has less holes. They're obviously the Super Bowl runner-up. They don't have a ton of holes. I think they can address the tight end position earlier than the 4th round, or at least maybe give us something better than James Mitchell, who I'm going to be honest, I don't know a ton about James Mitchell. He could be fantastic. He could be all the rage. Sorry to Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell for not pumping him up more, but I would love if the Bengals took a Charlie Kohler, if they took a Jeremy Ruckert, if they took a Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich would be fantastic. He would skyrocket up there to a Trey McBride area if he went to a better landing spot than he went with the Broncos. So what bothered me about this mock is that he landed in a bad spot. Ruckert landed in a bad spot with the Eagles. You obviously have Goddard there. Kate Otten with the Texans. They already have Brevin Jordan. Not a ton of passing volume. He's not a passing guy to begin with. Jake Ferguson to the Jets, who just brought into free agent tight ends. So it was just like a lot of bad landing spots other than Charlie Kohler, who goes to the Chiefs. Travis Kelce's 32. Obviously, we have Noah Gray there. I kind of like that for dynasty purposes. Jelani Woods going to the Cowboys in the 3rd round. Schultz is on the franchise tag. I like that for the Cowboys maybe a little bit as a dart throw. But the landing spots here just really sucked for the guys I really like with Greg Dulcich, Jeremy Ruckert. Matt Hicks was super high on Jeremy Ruckert. Listen to that on the podcast. But that's why I didn't bring up tight end earlier, because they were all just kind of meh landing spots.
It's funny because the ones that like the landing spots that I'm most interested in are the last 2 tight ends to go in Dane's mock, and that is Isaiah Likely to the Giants. You would talk about a guy who just has a ton of production. Just pulled up his player profiler, 91st percentile college dominator, 81st percentile college yards per reception, and then a 97th percentile breakout age as well for him. And going to the Giants, you want to talk about a team that has nothing in his way, other than Ricky Seals-Jones, but that's it with the Giants. And the last one, Grant Calcaterra going to the Colts. Kev, you were talking earlier about how the Colts are not really having a tight end. And Calcaterra is interesting because he was obviously a more celebrated prospect when he was with Oklahoma, and then I think he had concussion issues. I think head next something going on there, so he retired for a year, ended up going to SMU, I believe.
Yep,
is that right?
Yep, a little break as a firefighter.
He was a firefighter.
Wanted to calm it down, just join the firefighter life. Yeah,
definitely not a place where you have to worry about falling and hitting your head or doing anything crazy. But yeah, I mean that would be an interesting spot as well. But with the Bengals, I finally remember what I was going to say about the Bengals. Do they maybe use their 2nd round tight end draft pick from a couple years ago in Drew Sample? Do we remember them taking Drew Sample in the 2nd a couple years ago?
They should have kept Tyler Kroft. They wouldn't be in this position.
Tyler Kroft saves the day.
Hey,
words I didn't expect to hear, but this is coming from the Ty Johnson guy. He's all about them Jets. Let's go.
Well, anyways. So, do we got time? Do you want to talk about some kickers? If people play.
Okay, actually, though, real quick, I cannot believe how many kickers and punters he took in the top 5 rounds. I think the Cowboys took a kicker. The Eagles took a punter in round 4. The guy from SDSU, who's fantastic, probably actually deserves to be in the 4th round, but that's crazy. The amount of kickers.
Bengals last year. What's his name? McPherson. Yeah, I mean, he was the rage, all the talk. So I don't know. Maybe there's a run. Maybe like Janikowski, from the Raiders, whenever they took a kicker super high. So I will say one last thing about this mock. I was surprised the Cowboys don't have a wide receiver going earlier, especially with their, getting rid of Amari. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is there, but Michael Gallup, I don't know when he's going to be ready. I think there's a really good chance he starts the year on PUP, which I don't know. Maybe it's Simi Fiyoko time in Dallas, right?
Yeah, maybe. I do think they go wide receiver a little bit earlier. I think the big picks right now for Dallas are Zion Jordan, Kenyon Green. So these are two offensive linemen. And then Treylon Burks has been mocked there a lot, obviously with the Arkansas connection with Jerry Jones. So they could go wide receiver earlier than that. I don't know if they go Treylon Burks in the first round, but I definitely think within the top 3 picks, they're probably taking a wide receiver just because of how deep this class is. And their need at the position, releasing Amari Cooper. So, yeah, you can see him dipping back into that well probably before who'd they take in this one? Eric Azuma. I butchered that last name. That was a Tom Corson last name butcher right there.
Yeah.
Azukama. A little bit better.
Oh, so overall, I think there's some interesting spots here for this mock. Obviously, most of this is going to be wrong, but it's still a fun exercise to do to kind of take a look at some of these guys. I think we have one more week left till the draft. After we have one more week, and then the following week will be draft. I think next week maybe we try to get a little mock in, maybe a single quarterback mock. Right, we haven't done one of those yet. Rookie mock. Gets people together to do that. That sounds like a blasty blast, in itself. I'm just ready for the damn thing to get here so we can, actually talk about the landing spots and where these guys land and, the Chiefs taking Jamison Williams and, all that stuff. So we can break all that down. I'll be excited to do that. But
Kev, are we doing anything for the draft? Let's talk to the people about it. Are we running it back?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be running it back. We're going to be live day 1 and more than likely day 2 of the NFL draft of just breaking down, while you're sitting there at on and you're watching the NFL draft, just check us out, come and hang out with us. Last year, I think it was a lot of fun. I believe Robbie was in Hawaii eating Domino's of all things.
Not eating Domino's.
Was it a Domino's?
It wasn't Domino's. This is the worst insult of all the insults you guys give me. It was not Domino's. Okay.
Chick-fil-A, sorry.
They don't have Chick-fil-A there. I checked, okay?
It was definitely pizza. What was
I
it?
checked. It was pizza, the great Italian restaurant.
Papa John's.
Oh, I don't even remember the name, but it was fantastic. Ate there twice. It was great.
It was the Hut. It is what it was.
The Hut.
Anyways.
Yep.
But it was a lot of fun. We're gonna do it again this year. We're gonna break down all the picks, talk about it, have a bunch of guests on. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Hope everybody joins us for that. And other than that, unless you boys got anything else, we can get out of here on that.
Let's go.
All right. Well, with that being said, I appreciate everybody as always locking in with us, checking out the show. Oh, Chuck E. Cheese. He got some tickets. He got all the tickets. He's super excited about it. He got one of those spider rings. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that everybody gets. Loses within 5 seconds, but all the kids have to have.
No, I collect them. I've got them all on the shelf behind me.
Definitely got the Chinese finger trap. The ruler smack on your wrist.
The slap bracelet. You give me the slap bracelet.
Oh, yeah.
I save the tickets for the pool table. Come on now. You guys know I'm the conservative guy that saves my tickets. Come on.
He probably has a collection of them. We got to save them. Put them in the bank. You got a savings account for his Chuck E. Cheese tickets. He's been saving up for that. I don't know.
Literally, I'm going to buy the Chuck E. Cheese. I think I have enough to just buy the next franchise. So let's see.
All right. Well, with that being said, I appreciate everybody rocking with us. We will catch you guys again next week. Be sure to jump into our Discord if you haven't already. It's absolutely free. Should be a link below. If not, you can join any one of our videos. There's a link there for sure. And we'd love to see you guys in there. We will catch you guys on the next one. Have a good Easter weekend, by the way. Bye.